Well, thanks for joining us today on Local 3's podcast, Breaking Ground, where we discuss all things labor, labor politics, organizing, and history as it relates to operating engineers Local 3. You can find us on Local 3's official YouTube page or any audio streaming service you use. You can also visit oe3.buzzsprout.com for the audio-only version. Well, today I'm happy to have on the show with us Business Rep Armie Morgan out of the San Francisco Burlingame District. He services Local 3 members in the counties of Marin, San Francisco, and San Mateo. Armie, thanks for joining us today.
Yes, my pleasure. Yeah, thanks for having me.
On our previous podcast, we brought in apprenticeship coordinator Megan Pryor, and she talked a lot about how you had impacted her life when she was an apprentice. So we want to talk a little bit about, how you've impacted all these apprentices. And for our audience who may not know what a Local 3 apprentice is, it's basically a student who is accepted into the program, who does classroom training to get hours and in the field training until they can have enough hours to graduate as a journey level operating engineer. We just had Nevada's apprenticeship graduation this month. But before we go into all that, Armie, just tell us a little bit about your background. So what were you doing before you joined the Local 3 staff as a business agent?
Basically I worked out in the field. I came up through the apprenticeship program. I think it was a wonderful experience. It was a great opportunity. I left some dead-end shipping job where I was stuck at $12 an hour for the rest of my life, and, no representation, non-union. And I had a cousin that was in the operating engineers, and he was always telling me, hey, you should get into operators. We make good money. He did warn me it was seasonal, but, they were making twice as what I was making hourly, and it was, room for growth, and so I applied, and I turned it down the first couple of times because I was working steady. And I thought, not this time, maybe next time. And they called me again. Ted Sanchez, he called me, and he said, this is the last time we're going to call you. And I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. So I rolled the dice, and I got in relatively late. I mean, I was already 30 years old, and, I worked in Silicon Valley. And so I switched industries in a sense just to be union. My mother worked union for 30 years for Union Pacific, Southern Pacific. My father worked for Muni. So they always told me it's always best to work union. So I was destined to be, and I always used to envy the UPS drivers because they were union. And they were making a lot more than I was. We're basically doing the same work, And that's what drew me into the operating engineers, And when I came in, I worked, CEO, and I worked in around dirt, and I decided to go into grade checking because I didn't have a lot of experience with the equipment. So I figured I'd be safe in grade setting where I can always, find work, And when I was early in the apprenticeship, they were trying to switch me over to HDR because I had some diesel mechanic experience. And I thought about it, and I said, no, I almost flipped. To diesel mechanic. And because I went to a diesel, one of those tech schools for a while, and I learned a few engines. And the instructor was looking because I was a big guy, and he said, hey, you'll fit in, once you switch over here, and but I didn't. But I was grateful for the opportunity, So, it was just a great opportunity. It was free, back then we were able to collect unemployment while we went to the apprenticeship program, which was really a lifesaver for me.
The program was free and you received money.
Yes. Yeah. It was an 8-week course when I went back in 95. I'm aging myself now. And I quit a job to go in. I really rolled the dice.
I mean, yeah, it takes some courage to make a huge career change like that.
Yeah.
So then how long did you work in the field?
About 15 years, and
mainly in San Francisco.
No, I actually started my career in. I was living in San Jose at the time in District 90.
Okay.
So I did my whole apprenticeship in San Jose. So I worked in District 90 until, maybe like 2007. Yeah.
Okay. And then you must have had exposure to the Local 3 staff to even know that there was a staff opening available. What caused you to make that shift?
Yeah, because my family is from San Francisco, but even though we lived in San Jose for years, but my father and my grandfather was from San Francisco, so that was always home to me, San Francisco, and we still had a house up there. So, and it's a long story. I had a house out in Manteca. The market went bust, and that story. So I moved back to the Bay Area, and work was really slow out in District 30.
Sure.
Because I was living in Manteca for a while, and so that's how I went back to San Francisco.
Okay.
So I was working out in the field as a grade setter. I was off. I had a couple of bad years. It was real slow during the housing bust. Mm. Yeah, and so that's why I went back to the Bay Area, to San Francisco, and I started working again. And I started working at a District 1 hall. I was a grade checker, working for one of the little companies, and working in Mission Bay in San Francisco. And then I was happy. I said, I'm back working again, after, because San Francisco never stopped.
Work was in the Bay Area, yeah.
So, San Francisco, during that collapse, that housing
2008,
collapse.
9, 10,
yeah, exactly. 08, 09. It didn't really hit me till 10, to half of 09, and then 10. It got real slow. And then I got some work in 2011 again. And then I just said, heck with it. I went back to San Francisco, to my original roots, and I started working out in the field. I was happy. We had a lot of work in Mission Bay out there. That was before the Chase Center and all those big infrastructure projects. The Mission Bay project was just bubbling, and it's really just totally changed, from the way it used to be. It used to be like Skid Row, a bunch of old warehouses. Now it's like the new marina.
It's like
the place to live.
The place to live.
You got the Chase Center and baseball.
And Local 3 did all that.
AT&T, yes.
Local 3 built all that.
Yeah, all that work, yeah. And, and my cousin, he kind of led the way. He was kind of, because he went back to San Francisco to work too. He said, that's where the work is, So Vinnie Mac, I'm going to give you a shout out on that one, because he was in, about 10 years before I was. And he was always trying to get me to join the operating engineers,
So you're working and, did an agent come up to you and be like, hey, Armie, you should get involved in your union? Or how was the union impacting you to such a degree that you wanted to work for the union?
But I remember when I came back to San Francisco, and San Francisco, District 1 is very political. And so they always had voting, volunteer work, and phone banking and stuff like that. And when work was slow, I'll give him a shout out again, Vinnie Mac. He was like, man, we got to plug in with the hall, get your face seen, maybe you'll get a job, So I used to get into practice with working with Joe Siegfried, late Joe Siegfried. He was a great dispatcher, a great guy that worked in District 1. He's like a legend. And I used to volunteer with him. He'd sign me up, and I'd come at night and phone bank. That's how I got associated with most of the staff at District 1, by doing the vote volunteer work. Okay. Yeah.
And then a job opened up.
Yeah, well, I was kind of working here and there, what I mean? I was happy, you know what I mean? And I was doing the vote, the phone banking and stuff like that. And that's how they got to know me, and then working with Joe, he'd send me on, out on jobs, and I never turned him down, and I was always dependable. And I guess he'd seen something in me, and an opening came up for a business agent. And I was working at the time. I was happy. And he said, Armie, why don't you apply for that? And I said, for what? A business agent? I said, I'm not qualified for that. Well, I said, I don't know if that I'd fit in that or if they'd hire me. And he kept bugging me, why don't you apply for the job? I said, okay. So I went ahead and applied for the job. I didn't expect to get called, and I didn't care because I was working. Yeah. I was really, I was pro-union. I was pro-politics.
Obviously, you had volunteered and you understood how it all worked.
But I did none of that dawned on me while they were trying to suck me in, you know what I mean? And, I just wanted to work and make some money, And they said, yeah, you should apply for it. And I said, okay, I'll give it a shot, And I interviewed, and I told them, I think what got me the job, I said I was very pro-union, and I told them, I told them all kind of stuff, but I said, I remember saying this hopefully I don't offend anybody. I said, you know what? I'm just going to tell you up front, I'm a Democrat. I'm pro-labor. I know a lot of our members are Republicans. I don't get it, and they vote against their own interests, and that really pisses me off. Well, excuse my language, but you know what I mean.
You were passionate about the political side of it.
And I think that got them. You know what I mean?
You're like, this guy's the real deal.
Yeah, I think that, and because they asked me some question that pertained to that subject, and I just ran it. I just went off, and obviously, like, I was helping with the vote program and everything, and so next thing I know is, when can you start?
So you got the job,
Yeah.
and so, what was it like in the very beginning? Quite a learning curve, I would imagine.
Oh, yes. I had to get reacquainted with working with computers and paperwork and, get organized and making deadlines and, yes, contracts. It has do a lot more reading, more reading.
And that was what year? What year did you join the staff?
I came in 2013.
Okay, 2013.
Yeah, May. I think it was it? Yeah, May 15th, I think it was.
So you've been doing this work for, more than 10 years. So what is it like now? I mean, you've obviously
It's an endless battle.
Well, explain that. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's fighting a good fight out there. Everybody's going to always look for a shortcut. Everybody's going to always try to do something the easier, softer way, and not follow the rules. And so they just need to be reinforced sometimes.
You're talking about the employers?
The employers.
Okay.
Yes. Definitely the employers. Yeah. So, your first thought, or, the first thing that comes to mind even if you've got work around your house, how's the cheapest way I can get this done? So
sure.
It's just a natural.
It's a matter of business.
Yeah. So, that's why I said it's an endless battle. We have to keep them honest, especially when they're getting public funding and they're getting top money. They should be paying prevailing wage and, go by the book, or their payroll is going to get looked at, or do an audit or whatever. That's how I threaten them.
You work to just enforce the contract all the time.
Yes, especially, because we invest a lot of money in, like some of our PLAs, the contracts we work through the building trades, to ensure that this work goes union, and they pay prevailing wage. So, and then we invest in, money in lobbying with the labor-friendly politicians. So we're invested in this. To get
those monies. We're
right,
mentally, physically, emotionally, and financially
right, to get the contracts we want with the language we want to ensure the work goes union, and to make sure our members have a place to work, and on big infrastructure projects, So if they're out there cutting corners with this, public funding,
we're losing
that's
money.
A no-no,
Yeah.
And even in private work, I stay on them.
Well, as it relates to the members as well, what's kind of your personal union philosophy, Armie? Like, what motivates you to do what you do?
Kind of like what I alluded to earlier.
Politics, making sure people follow the rules.
Yeah. I just, I think, labor is a very sacred thing. You volunteer your time, effort, blood, sweat, and tears. It's a honest transition for pay. And so I think it should be a fair deal. That's just the way I see it. I think labor is a very honorable thing to offer someone your labor, and so that's the way I look at it. So I take it, very seriously. And, there's a lot of slick contractors out there that's going to try to cut corners and take advantage
human
of
nature.
people.
It's human nature.
Yeah, because you're at a total disadvantage as an employee coming up to some crafty employer, You
don't know what's going on.
Right. They can just offer you the bare minimum, and just treat you like crap, and so.
So
but
we've
came a
against
long
that.
way. Labor has came a long way in this country, especially in California.
Yeah.
So, and that's a good thing. So I just try to keep them honest to it, the best to my ability.
Now, you have done many other things at the same time as being a business agent. I have that you've served as a delegate for the San Francisco Building Trades Council, San Francisco Labor Council, San Francisco Metal Trades Council, alternate facilitator of the Labor and Industrial Relations Model at Stanford University. And then you're a member of the Local 3 subcommittee, and also you train apprenticeship candidates through City Build. So do you want to talk about any of those things? I mean, that seems like a lot right there.
Yeah, I don't want to put it. Yeah, well, we stay busy, never a dull moment. It's an endless battle, but no, it's all good. We just use all the tools available to us. But one of my favorite things was working with City Build. The pre-apprenticeship program. And that's where I met, falling back to Megan, that's where I met her, and we used to go, me and Kat Lytle used to go over there and give presentations about the operating engineers and about the operating engineers apprenticeship program. And so, I kind of enjoyed that. We had to get some new blood in the union, we got to keep this thing going.
Of course.
Yeah. So, and, Megan was always, a bright spirit and always stuck out. And she did the same thing I did. She used to come every time we asked her to help with the vote program and everything. She'd show up.
She was right in there.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and help with all the vote volunteer work and the phone banking, and that's how we got kind of used to Megan being around,
Well, she certainly speaks highly of you. You'd come to job sites, and you had her back.
Yeah, because it's. I'll just be honest with you. This is like the last frontier, our business. Sometimes, and sometimes women aren't treated fairly, and they try to. Oh, you just go over there and they give you a flag and just flag the trucks, you know what I mean? And don't give them an opportunity. Yeah. So I tried to make sure that they gave her an opportunity on the equipment or treated her fairly.
Well, she has not forgotten that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you talked a lot about politics, and I know politics is a huge part of what goes on. And obviously, the San Francisco geographic area is so huge. The district worked really hard to pass a couple of propositions during the last general election. Prop A, which is $790 million for safety in school projects, and then Prop B as well, $390 million for hospital, street, and sidewalk improvement jobs. Can you talk about how these and other measures create work for our members and why the district works so hard to secure those types of measures?
Yes, this is going back to doing the phone banking and, doing the grassroots work, finding the labor-friendly politicians who will implement these propositions that make sense for everybody, make the infrastructure for hospitals better, and it'll put people to work. It's a no-brainer. Yeah, it's a win-win. It's work we need, and it's a service, the public needs desperately, to have updated infrastructure in the schools and the hospitals. So, our labor-friendly politicians that we support and go out precinct walking for and phone banking, that's where it pays off, and we can, keep everybody working and do good things for the community as well. Yeah, we had I think Matt Haney, Scott Wiener was involved in that, and of course Mayor London Breed, who served the last term, was very helpful to the union.
It's obviously we had a pretty divisive election in 2024.
Yeah, a lot of things changed. It took a lot of wind out of my sails, but
a lot of things are happening. Every day something new is happening. But you mentioned supporting local politicians. I mean, we can't control everything, but in the down ballot races particularly, I mean, you've seen what those pro-union politicians have done in terms of securing work for our members. And I would say, in this year, that's probably just more part of the district's goals, right? Is just creating those relationships with pro-union politicians and trying
Oh,
to sort
definitely.
of
Yes.
strengthen the foundation of what you've built in San Francisco. You know,
Right.
what's going on at the federal level is still to be determined, but San Francisco is still very pro-union.
Yes, yes, I know. I didn't want to, sound gloom and doom over over our new administration
Well,
federally, but
yeah.
it remains to be seen, what's going to happen.
Exactly
But yeah,
what's going to happen.
California's pretty safe, for now, yeah. Thank God for that,
You've, as we mentioned before, obviously worked with apprentices. What's some of the most important advice that you give them when they're just starting out to help them be more successful? Because it's not easy.
Yeah, it's a tough. It's not going to be easy. If you're just looking for an easy paycheck, you might want to think twice, But the first thing I tell them is keep this zipped and knees open. You know what I mean? And you're halfway home. You know what I mean? You're halfway home. They don't like an apprentice that talks a lot or got a lot of excuses, and or tell them what I already know how to do that, and just show them. You know what I mean? Show up on time. Show up early. And you'll do great. Have a great attitude, and you'll be fine. They know you don't know much, so don't try to trick them or fool them. I know how to do that, and flip over an excavator or something. Just remain honest and be willing to learn.
Now, when you were first starting out, did anyone give you any advice that you remember being impactful?
Yeah, just. Bust your butt out there, and try to impress somebody, because you're an apprentice. You're still in a probationary period.
You're still like trying out.
Yes. You know what I mean?
It's just a long
and
tryout.
A lot of people don't get that.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean? They just think, oh, I'm in. You know what I mean? And
you have to prove yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to prove yourself because you want to impress some journeyman, not necessarily the foreman. You want to impress a journeyman who might take you under their wing and teach you a craft, that'll, get you started at least,
Now, do you also explain to them the philosophy of the union, like why it's important to be involved in the union, like how that impacts you directly? Do you talk about that to the apprentices at all?
Oh, yes. We kind of reiterate the political aspect to your membership. You want to vote with your wallet, like the officers always say.
Yeah, which is true.
We try to stay political. We try to, we drive that into them, and we drive them on the vote program to volunteer work, to do the phone banking, to get labor-friendly politicians in office.
Okay. Now, how was your experience then with labor unions? Helped you you're also the SF Fire Commission president. So how did that shift happen, and how does your role in familiarity with labor unions help you on that commission?
Now, right now, I'm actually just a commissioner again because we rotate every year. So after January, my term as president was over.
Okay.
So I was vice president the year prior and then president, which was a great experience. We went through a lot of transitional period, big turnover. And now I'm just a regular commissioner, which is still a lot of responsibility.
So what do you do?
What
do you do in that capacity?
First of all, it's an honor to serve the city of San Francisco on the commission. It really is. I give them the best I got because, these guys are heroes. They run into burning buildings, So first I thought, well, I don't know if I could do it, just like, the business agent. But no, you just have to apply yourself and try. And so, we're basically an oversight committee. And we help with, some of the general orders and, some of their personnel issues and, some of their procedures, the way they go about doing stuff. We deal with their budget. We have to approve the budget. We oversee the budget. They're very transparent with everything. So it's just a oversight committee for the public, like a lawyer would say, sunshine ordinance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they know somebody's not stashing money somewhere in a sense.
You hold them accountable too.
Yes, we hold them accountable. And it's aired. It's at City Hall, sf.gov or whatever it is. And, every meeting's, like this,
Now, you had
So
said that
everything's transparent.
you were kind of tasked with that because they'd had a labor representative before.
Oh yeah, we covered
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Yes. So I just filled a seat for the late Tony Rodriguez, who actually served on the commission, and he's with the Pipe Fitters Union in San Mateo.
Okay.
And
So they were like, we need another labor
so
guy.
the San Francisco Building Trades, Larry Mazzolo, and Charlie
Like,
got
I
together.
know a guy.
I got a sucker. I mean, I got a guy
Yeah.
who can fill that seat, So, and I said, sure, I'll give it a try, And it's been an honor. And speaking of Tony Rodriguez, he was a great labor guy too. He was one of my mentors.
Okay.
So that was probably had something to do with it. I used to look up to him when I was a new agent, and I used to go to the San Francisco Building Trades and see how they conducted business and everything.
So it's kind of come full circle.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've all heard about what's happened with the fires in LA. How has that sort of impacted the fire commission in San Francisco? Did they send crews down to fight those fires?
Yeah, I think we sent, if I'm not mistaken, we sent like 4 trucks and 41 firefighters out there during the course of the fire.
Were there conversations about like fire protection and, after that happened? Like, has there been, is there any, I don't know, are things going to be different or,
No, the only thing that came to mind to me was budget issues, because it's
always about money.
Yeah. So budget issues, I know San Francisco is facing an $800 million deficit for the next 2 years. And so all different departments might be impacted by that. So the mayor suggested that they cut 15% at all the different districts. And we're not going to go for that, especially after what happened
Not
in
the
LA.
fire, yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of frightening. In other counties, you see counties or cities cutting back in those departments, and then you might regret it, like what happened in LA, or not, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but
not having enough staffing, to cover when a disaster happens.
Just a lot of things went wrong in LA. That was just unfortunate. It was just unfortunately a perfect storm for that.
Yeah.
You have to have your infrastructure intact. You have to have your department fully funded. You have to have your personnel fully staffed, everyone fully trained.
Well, infrastructure, going back to infrastructure, that's another one of the benefits that operating engineers provides is just lobbying for infrastructure so that people can evacuate or, what happened with Paradise. We're learning through tragedy that we need better infrastructure.
Right, yeah. So that's what I took from the LA fires was we want to remain fully funded, our fire department. So that's what the commission voted on. It's up to the mayor if she can, or the mayor, Lori. We have a new mayor now. Mayor Lori, if he can get the board of supervisors to go along with him.
On board with that.
Yes, because they have to vote on it as well.
Okay. We're glad that you're on that, committee. Just speaking on behalf of labor's needs to influencing these decisions that impact the city with labor in mind. We talk a lot about how Local 3 is a coalition, and if no one is saying to politicians what labor needs, then those needs are never met. So you're doing that in many different capacities by serving in all these roles. Like
you alluded to, infrastructure that definitely relates to us and operating engineers. The fire department relies on a competent infrastructure, that's well built, or they can't put out the fires. Because we had a problem down in the shipyard where it's an old Navy yard, and a lot of the infrastructure was it was old and dilapidated, or and abandoned, and they had a warehouse fire down there. And so they had to jump through hoops just to get a water supply. They had to tie back into one of the streets outside of the shipyard because the infrastructure in the shipyard was
so poor.
Yes. And
it's a great example.
and it was abandoned. They didn't know it. That's what was scary about it. And they had to find, but they got it done. They did their thing and connected.
To a water line. That
Yes,
was further away.
trucks to a water line and transferred the water to other trucks and got it to the warehouses, and they handled it. So infrastructure is very important to the fire department. So I think that's one of the things that I can be involved in on that commission. That's definitely.
Sure. What did you do? It says here you worked for the Labor and Industrial Relations module at Stanford University. What was that all about?
Yeah, that was a great experience. That's when I was a new agent. It was very helpful. It was something Pete Figueredo implemented. It was just a mock negotiations between business major students and labor, us.
Interesting.
So we
got to see what it looks like when those parties negotiate.
Right, exactly. And so they'd pretend that they were the company and we were the union, and we were negotiating contracts and labor wages and market rate, geographical market rate, and all this.
That's so cool that they did that. That's part of that degree at
Stanford. It was
a
great exercise. I did it I did it twice. We did it 2 years in a row when Pete was here. He thought that was a great experience. And so both ends benefited. The union,
both can learn,
and and the students at Stanford.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it was a great experience.
Don't know how that looks. That there's all these negotiations are going on endlessly. With an employer and the union talking, and that's how changes are made and improvements are made.
Yeah,
and there's tactics in that, right?
Right. Yeah. Especially in California, it seems to be a pro-labor state. So
we have the leverage.
Yes, So it's a blue state and it's labor friendly, and Stanford was on board with it, so it made sense.
Many of our listeners are familiar with the construction trades, but some are not. Can you explain why a career in the trades is so beneficial to our audience, and how has your career impacted your life and your family?
It's dirty hands, clean money.
I've heard that before.
It's an honest day's pay for honest day pay for honest day's work. And a lot of people, it's honorable craft. It's honorable field. Never a dull moment. Always different locations. And operating engineers. One thing I can say for certain: you won't get bored unless you're not working. Then you'll get bored. But if you stay busy working, it's quite an adventure. I would say. Being
involved in this organization in all the capacities that you have, would you say that it's been fulfilling for you?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Sometimes you drive by projects with my daughter or my son. Hey, we built that. Yeah. We did that subdivision. It's going to be there 50, 100 years. Yeah. That's very gratifying. Oh, I worked on the Bay Bridge project.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. My grandfather worked on the Golden Gate Bridge and the Bay Bridge. He came out here from Louisiana and moved to San Francisco. That's how we started in San Francisco. In the late 30s.
Wow. So, it's generational for you.
Yes. I think that's why they kind of embrace me at City Hall. They know that.
They know your history.
Yeah.
They know
San Francisco's kind of like that. It's kind of like, it's kind of cultural and.
Well, any advice for those listening in who, may be on the fence about, trying for a career in the construction trades? What are the things that they need to be aware of?
It's not going to be easy. If you're looking for, like I said earlier, if you're looking for an easy paycheck, that's not for you. Need a little hustle, a little step, pep in your step, You
got to be kind of tough.
It got to be tough, deal with the weather. Don't mind extreme weather from hot to cold, and not be a crybaby. If you're a crybaby, this is not for you. No crybabies.
Yeah, right, because you could be driving 2 hours to your job site, get there at 5 a.m., cold in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
You're in the field all day. There's no cush office with a nice, chair. And but people love it. The people who do it love it.
It's gratifying, when you get that feeling of you got something done when you work hard and you see the end result. It's very gratifying.
And it's a steady, good employment for someone who maybe doesn't want to go to college and graduate
Right.
college
And,
with,
yeah.
thousands of dollars in debt and no job.
Right. You could make a living wage. Thank God for the unions, but it could be hard work. Some days are easy though. But
You just never know.
Yeah, it's up and down. Some days are easy. Some days are beautiful. You say, God, I can't believe they're paying me to do this. When we're out on the Bay Bridge and I was a deckhand on a boat cruising around the bay, helping the crane operators and transporting the crews around. I mean, it was like 75 degrees.
You're like, this is the life.
Yes.
I'm getting paid to be on a boat.
I'm like, people pay thousands of bucks to come out here and do this, from Europe, you know what I mean? And they're paying me to, some days some days are really great. Some days are a lot better, and, some days are not so good, but most of the days are good.
Well, speaking of that, I mean, you've done a lot of things in your life so far. What's the hardest part of your job representing the members?
The hardest part representing the members?
Yeah.
Well, I can go on. We have special members, quote unquote, that are never satisfied, the crybabies, but, sometimes that could be tough.
Well, you solve problems, right? You get a lot of
we
problems.
solve problems, but some members create a lot of their own problems. Give me something to work with here, I won't say any names. Like, I've had members, employer, he's been late 4 times this month. We got to do something about it. And so I talked to the member, well, you're my union, represent me. Well, give me something to work with here. You got to show up on time. That's the agreement, So that's the worst case scenario, of course.
Well, I know the joke is, right, you guys are, your counselors, your financial advisors,
We're everything. We're lawyers.
Yeah, you're lawyers.
We're psychiatrists.
They call you with everything, and you got to figure out how to help them in all the different types of ways.
We're bodyguards. We're everything. We do it all. You know what I mean?
But you're taking care of people.
Yeah, you play different. You wear different hats.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's been a great experience.
Well, and in line with that, what's been one of the best parts of your job, Armie?
Seeing people like Megan.
Seeing people make it.
You're right. Seeing people make it.
And knowing that you had a part in that you kind of helped them along the way.
Yeah, because someone helped me, so I had to pass the torch. So said Ted Sanchez. When I was an apprentice, he gave me an eye level when I was in the apprenticeship program. And man, I went through the whole apprenticeship with that eye level.
Your eye level is
for grade checking.
Yeah, he gave you one.
Yeah, they were like $100. He just gave me one. Oh, I don't need it anymore. So
it's that kind of stuff. You never forgot that.
Yeah.
And then the roles switched when you then had that.
So I gave an apprentice an eye level before, and it felt good.
You kind of come all the way now.
Right.
Well, are there any closing thoughts that you have for our audience today? I mean, you've been here a while. You've served on a lot of committees. You've made a big impact in San Francisco, but obviously there are apprentices that you've mentored who aren't even in San Francisco, union-wide. Do you have any closing thoughts about sort of your career so far?
Yeah, I wouldn't have seen this coming. It's been a great experience. Got to experience a lot of different locations, met a lot of great people. I think people in this industry and construction and labor are the most honorable people you ever meet. They'll be the first ones that'll help you if you're stranded on the side of a road, just good people, people who's willing to do an honest day's work.
Yeah.
So I think we got a special brotherhood and sisterhood here.
Do you think labor, what do you think the future of labor is? Do you think that we're poised to get stronger?
Yes. I mean, you can't,
we got Starbucks is getting organized, Amazon. There's a lot of the public perception of unions, I think, is improving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been on the rise, I think, the last 5 years, because people are tired of getting screwed. They want some insurance, they want some protections, they want some representation, so it makes sense. It's just people willing to fight the good fight, doing what's right, And when I leave, hopefully somebody will take my place, like Megan, continue the fight on, or whoever that I came in contact with. We gotta pass the word, share the message, and that's part of our responsibility. We're not just here for a paycheck. So that's another thing that ticks me off, that people just, or on staff just for a paycheck. It's more than that. You got to have some kind of passion.
Yeah.
Or you're not gonna affect nothing. You're probably not gonna make it.
You impact people you meet every single day. And obviously, you still have that passion very much alive. So as you do that, you start little fires in other people.
Yeah,
and
I try.
Continue.
Try to be like a virus.
A good one. A good
yeah.
virus. Well, Armie, thank you for joining us. I don't know if you have anything else you want to share. I mean, we covered a lot of ground.
About it.
Yeah.
It was an honor to be here, and thanks for having me, and thanks for letting me say my little piece.
Thanks for making the trip.
Yep, and I'm sure this ship will keep sailing forward.
Regardless of who's in charge
who gets off
regardless
and
of
who gets
politics,
on.
we've been around for more than 85 years.
Yeah.
We're going to be around a lot longer.
Right. Like you said, the infrastructure is very important. It's an honorable craft. So I think this union's blessed, and I think our craft is blessed. We'll be around for a long time.
Thank you, Armie.